Let's talk about something we all experience, but almost never talk about honestly. Failure. Not the dramatic movie montage kind where you fall down and immediately rise stronger. The quiet kind. The kind that makes you question yourself on the drive home. The kind that shows up after a relationship ends, a project collapses, or you realize you didn't become who you thought you would by now. Here's the thing most people miss. Failure doesn't hit everyone the same way. Some people turn it into fuel. Some people turn it inward. Some people pretend it didn't matter. And some people quietly rewrite the story so it hurts less. Your personality type plays a huge role in how you process failure, whether in work, love, or life. Not just how you react to it, but what you do next. So today, we're breaking down how each of the 16 MBTI personality types handles failure, where they tend to get stuck, and what growth actually looks like for them when things don't go as planned. This isn't about shaming weaknesses. It's about understanding your wiring, so failure stops feeling like a personal flaw and starts feeling like information. If you enjoy MBTI content that feels honest, validating, and actually helps you grow, hit like, tap subscribe, and comment your type below. Because here on Personality IRL, we don't just talk about success. We talk about what happens when things fall apart. Alright, let's talk about failure, type by type. These types experience failure as a disruption of order, control, or competence, and that can be deeply uncomfortable. When ISTJs fail, their first instinct is to internalize it. They don't usually blame luck or circumstances. They ask, where did I drop the ball? In work, failure often triggers quiet self-criticism. They replay details, looking for the exact moment things went wrong, and vow not to repeat it. In relationships, failure can feel especially confusing. They may think, I did everything I was supposed to do. Why wasn't it enough? Instead of expressing disappointment, they withdraw and become more guarded. Growth for ISTJs happens when they realize failure is not always a breach of duty. Sometimes it's simply part of being human. ESTJs experience failure as a threat to competence and leadership. At work, they often respond by doubling down. They tighten systems, increase expectations, and push harder, convinced that discipline will fix the problem. But internally, failure can feel humiliating, even if they don't show it. In relationships, failure may show up as frustration rather than sadness. They try to correct what went wrong, not always realizing that emotional repair isn't a task list. ESTJs grow when they learn that failure doesn't disqualify them as leaders. It humanizes them, and often earns more trust than perfection ever could. INTJs tend to intellectualize failure. In work, they analyze it deeply, sometimes obsessively. They want to understand the structural reason it happened so they can prevent it forever. The danger is that they can become stuck in analysis, delaying action out of fear of repeating the mistake. In relationships, failure often feels like emotional inefficiency. They may pull back thinking, this shouldn't be this complicated. But avoidance doesn't equal resolution. INTJs grow when they accept that not every failure can be engineered away, and that some lessons require emotional presence, not just insight. ENTJs experience failure as momentum loss. In work, it hits hard because they tie progress to identity. They might mask disappointment with ambition, immediately chasing the next win. But unresolved failure can create a quiet sense of emptiness beneath the drive. In relationships, they may minimize emotional failures, preferring to move forward rather than sit with pain. But growth requires slowing down. ENTJs thrive when they learn that failure doesn't erase their strength. It simply asks them to expand it to include vulnerability. These types feel failure deeply, but the real damage often comes from how quietly they turn that failure inward. Their empathy becomes self-erasure. Their meaning-seeking becomes paralysis. When ISFJs experience failure, their first thought is rarely about themselves. It's about impact. At work, they replay the moment over and over, not asking, did I fail? But, who did I inconvenience? They often respond by overcompensating, working harder, apologizing more, and shrinking their own needs. Over time, this turns reliability into resentment, even though they rarely admit it out loud. In relationships, failure feels like emotional guilt. If something ends or goes wrong, ISFJs assume they missed a sign or failed to care enough. Instead of expressing hurt, they double down on being agreeable, hoping harmony will return on its own. Their growth edge is realizing that disappointment does not mean disloyalty. You can care deeply without carrying everything alone. INFJs don't experience failure as a simple mistake. They experience it as a fracture in meaning. In work, failure can trigger an existential spiral. They don't just ask what went wrong, they ask whether the entire path was ever aligned to begin with. This can lead to emotional withdrawal, or a sudden desire to start over completely. In relationships, failure feels deeply personal. INFJs often sense patterns early, and when something collapses they think, "I knew this would happen." Instead of repairing, they retreat, protecting their inner world from further disappointment. INFJs grow when they allow failure to inform their purpose, not invalidate it. Meaning evolves, it doesn't disappear. ISFPs experience failure emotionally before they understand it cognitively. At work, if something stops feeling aligned, they lose energy quickly. Failure may cause them to disengage rather than reassess. They don't rebel loudly, they quietly fade, telling themselves the environment just isn't right. In relationships, failure often leads to withdrawal. Conflict feels threatening to authenticity, so instead of explaining hurt, they pull back. The other person feels confused, while the ISFP feels unseen. Their growth edge is understanding that discomfort does not mean betrayal of self. Sometimes growth requires staying present when it feels hardest. INFPs often interpret failure as confirmation of a fear they already carry. Maybe I'm not capable. In work, setbacks can trigger procrastination and self-criticism. They may delay starting again because action risks reinforcing the story they fear most. This creates a cycle where inaction becomes the real failure. In relationships, INFPs love deeply, but when things go wrong, they may assume they were too much or misunderstood beyond repair. They test quietly instead of communicating clearly. INFPs grow when they separate outcomes from identity. Failure does not define their worth. It simply offers feedback. These types respond to failure quickly, but their speed can sometimes bypass reflection. They move on fast, but the lesson doesn't always come with them. ESTPs are remarkably resilient in the face of failure. At work, they adapt quickly and recover fast, often outperforming others in crisis. The danger is that they may skip the reflection phase entirely, assuming future adaptability will cover present mistakes. In relationships, they often minimize emotional fallout. They assume issues will blow over, not realizing that unaddressed feelings compound over time. ESTPs grow when they slow down just enough to ask what the failure is trying to teach, not just how to escape it. ESFPs experience failure emotionally and socially. At work, they can feel deeply discouraged if effort isn't recognized or if feedback feels cold. They may respond by avoiding situations where they feel judged, even if growth is possible. In relationships, failure can feel like rejection. Instead of expressing hurt directly, they may mask it with positivity, humor, or distraction, until the weight builds. Their growth edge is learning that vulnerability doesn't ruin connection. It deepens it. ENTPs see failure less as loss and more as unrealized possibility. At work, they may abandon projects that didn't take off quickly, assuming their energy is better spent elsewhere. Over time, this leaves a trail of unfinished brilliance. In relationships, ENTPs may intellectualize conflict, turning emotional moments into debates. This can make partners feel unheard, even when the ENTP believes they're engaging fully. ENTPs grow when they commit to refinement instead of reinvention. Depth comes from staying. ENFPs often tie failure to their sense of self. In work, setbacks can cause them to question their direction entirely. They may pivot too quickly, believing they need a new start instead of a stronger foundation. In relationships, failure can trigger emotional overwhelm. They may over-apologize, over-analyze, or disappear emotionally, fearing they are too much or not enough. ENFPs grow when they build systems that support their creativity instead of abandoning paths too early. These types appear steady during failure, but much of their processing happens internally and quietly. ISTPs respond to failure with detachment. At work, they focus on fixing what broke, often ignoring emotional or relational fallout. If politics or feelings complicate things, they may disengage entirely. In relationships, they minimize emotional failure, preferring simplicity. This can make partners feel shut out, even when the ISTP cares deeply. ISTPs grow when they recognize that emotions are not inefficiencies, they're data. INTPs analyze failure deeply. At work, they may get stuck refining theories instead of acting. They assume clarity must come before movement, even when action would create clarity. In relationships, they struggle to express disappointment consistently. They assume others know how they feel, which creates distance. INTPs grow when they accept that imperfect expression is better than silent insight. ENFJs experience failure relationally. At work, they often blame themselves for group dysfunction. They overextend to compensate, becoming emotionally exhausted while maintaining a supportive exterior. In relationships, they may give more after failure instead of addressing hurt, teaching others to rely on their labor rather than their boundaries. ENFJs grow when they allow themselves to receive care instead of constantly providing it. ESFJs fear disappointing expectations. At work, they may remain in unfulfilling roles because leaving feels like letting people down. Failure becomes something to hide rather than process. In relationships, they suppress needs to keep harmony, until resentment quietly builds. ESFJs grow when they learn that honest conflict strengthens relationships more than silent endurance. Failure doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. Every personality type has a unique way of processing setbacks, and a unique opportunity for growth when things go wrong. If this video helped you understand your own reactions a little better, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And comment your MBTI type, along with one thing failure has taught you. Because here on Personality IRL, we don't just explore who you are at your best. We walk with you through the moments that shape you. You're not broken because you failed. You're becoming someone wiser because you learned. And that matters.